The MegaMap is a new feature that we're putting into the game to cut a lot of the frustrations with load times out for people, essentially eliminate load screens altogether. The issues that drove us to this technology come from the unprecedented scale of this universe we're creating. What this means is we couldn't load it into one map without crippling memory and performance. So we divided it up and put the segments into object containers which we could load as needed. The problem with that was that it meant players would need to wait through a series of load screens as they moved about in the game. The MegaMap was our solution. We load the MegaMap as we would a standard map. The MegaMap itself is empty, but once the MegaMap's loaded, we actually start to fill the MegaMap with content of various game modes via object containers. So we would load the MegaMap, which is empty, load the front end, which is a set of object containers, load the front end game rules, which tells the game how to work in that game mode. The user would then pick a new game mode to play. At that point, we throw away all the object containers, we throw away the game mode, load in the free flight game mode and the Dying Star object containers, but we do that via streaming rather than a complete level load, so we're able to shave the vast majority of the load time down to a few seconds rather than long enough to warrant a load screen. As you can see, even with MegaMap switched on, there is still a load stall. It's only a few seconds compared to the 30 seconds it takes to load without the MegaMap's feature, but it's still something we're working to eliminate by making the feature operate asynchronously. So gameplay wise, that's great for players if they want to be in the front end, changing some settings, they can go to a hangar, they can put some items in the hangar, look at their ships, then immediately go back to the front end, no load screens, pick a game mode, such as race mode, they can dive straight into race mode, play around with one ship, decide they don't like that ship, come back to the front end, switch to a new ship, still no load screens, rather than having a process where they're sat in the front end, they have to think carefully where they want to go because they know there's a load screen coming up. Go there, do some stuff and then load screen again. So by adding this new feature, we're putting into the game the first application of a lot of the object container streaming, which will be a fundamental part of the PU experience moving forward, as the PU becomes essentially like its own MegaMap with a bunch of sets of object containers that will stream in and out as you move through that map. The thing that makes this tricky in terms of gameplay programming is with the new flow, we're now not destroying and recreating the player between game modes. So with the new setup, it potentially makes it easier to persist some of the player's attributes between these game modes because of the fact that we're not destroying him and recreating him. So one of the more interesting bugs that the new MegaMap flow has produced was QA finding that they could place down a liquor cabinet in their hangar, take a few swigs from a bottle, get slightly blurry vision-wise, then decide they don't want to be in the hangar anymore. They want to go fly their ship in free flight. However, with this new flow, the player's not being destroyed and recreated. So unfortunately for you, the player, you now find yourself in the ship with blurry vision, trying to fly through space, which is probably not the best thing for a player to be doing. So it's something we'll obviously be looking to fix, but a nice illustration of the kind of interesting challenges that we're facing fixing up this new flow.
MegaMap for multiplayer is a little bit more complicated. It builds on top of the single player implementation. The tech is the same up to a point. The additional challenge is that each level in our multiplayer game lives on its own server to handle the tens of thousands of players who might visit it at any one time. A multiplayer match and it comes to an end and you want to change to another multiplayer game mode and map, then you're going to have to unload the map that you're in, say Dying Star, go back to the front end, make your selection as to what you want to do, and then load into the next map, say Broken Moon, doing Pirate Swarm or whatever. Because you're going from connected to a server back to the front end, we've got to drop the connection, but we've got to keep the mega map in memory, empty out all its contents, put all the front end pieces in, let the player make a selection, and then go and connect to another server while keeping a map in memory at the same time, and then stream in all the new pieces for the new map. It's a bit like trying to unplug your computer and then replugging it without losing power. And that's not the way we've been doing things before. It's been very much get to the end of a match, you drop the connection to the server, you clean everything out, and it's kind of like a hard reset of the system. Load in the front end, make your selection, end of that, hard reset of the system, connect to the next server. So we're just keeping the map in memory, but switching connections to servers and switching between single player and multiplayer game modes at the same time without doing this reset, which is a bit of a challenge because the way the engine's being built, it's kind of the assumption that once the system starts up, it'll either be in single player mode or it'll be in multiplayer mode, and it'll always stay that way until the system shuts down again. But now we're changing these things dynamically all the time. So that can create a lot of bugs. So it's kind of been a process of trying it out, finding out what it breaks, fixing it, trying it again, finding out what it breaks, fixing it, and we just keep doing that over and over. Taking a system like Crusader and extending it, you might have an object container for each of the stations, each of the comms arrays. There'll be an object container that contains references to the object containers for where all these other things are, and they'll just be sort of left there, very lightweight form. And then as you head towards, say, Port Olisar, the object container for Port Olisar will get loaded in and expanded, and that may contain other object containers that contain parts of the interior or different decks or whatever, and they'll get loaded in on demand. So it kind of, you have a skeleton structure that's defined by an object container, and then you can fill in the various parts and collapse them down again and load out another part. I don't know what scale they're going down to, but say a room's an object container. Assemble them together to make a deck, assemble them together to make a space station, that's an object container. Interior, exterior, possibly could be different object containers. That's linked to an object container in space that says where that space station is, and that'll be parented by the sort of root system object container that says where all the different space stations are in that system and different planets and so on. So it kind of scales out that way. But so far it's only been done for the Star Marine maps and Arena Commander maps. When we bring this technology over to PU, it'll have to be done through Crusader and the other systems that are going to come online. So it's a lot of work that we need to do still, but the technology is kind of at the point where we can start seeing the benefits of it now. Star Citizen's a question of scale, really, isn't it? It's taking a standard game and making it much bigger than anything else that's currently out there. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is by focusing on what the player needs to know and tailoring that experience for each player, even though they're all connected to the same server. So you're always looking for opportunities to not do something and avoid that little bit of work, well, on the computer side of things anyway, yeah.